Hello, good to see you yet again for another one of our Fireside chats. We come to you and are hopeful that things are going well for you. I was doing my devotions this morning and thinking on a verse that jumped out at me in First Corinthians. And of course, we know the book of First Corinthians. Paul is dealing with issues inside of a church. I know that theologians will classify the Corinthian church as a carnal church, and just seems to be the label that's been put to this church. As I've analyzed, whether it's this church or the other churches mentioned throughout the Bible that Paul writes letters to, and even as I've been around churches all my life, I think I've come to a realization that all of us are carnal. Carnality means human. We're all human, and we have mistakes, and we come with mistakes. I think our flaw in labeling a church as a carnal or a bad or a worldly church, that we run the risk of factoring the humanity out of church. And when you do that, you try to create an atmosphere, an image of perfection, which none of us can attain. We're human at best. Even I, the preacher of Heartland Baptist Church, I am tainted with sin, as we all are. And my fear is, I think in Christendom, and certainly in the church circle, I think we've tried to put ourselves in and level ourselves. We've seen it in many churches. They call it hierarchy, and what you have is you have this image or atmosphere where one's better than another. And I think that comes even with labels we put on each other inside of a church. And I think there's a danger there. So I think this Corinthian church we need to look at as a young church, even though Paul spent a lot of time there. It's a church saved out of a metropolitan area, much wickedness around it, polytheism, multi-gods. Certainly they're going to have some odd, weird, wrong ways that they're going to need to clean out. And I think Paul is trying to deal with that. And Paul had an affinity to the church at Corinth. We know he was at least there 2 years. The Bible tells us that. And so he spent some intense moments here at this church trying to build it. And so he takes liberties, I believe, in his writings to this church to try to deal with some internal issues that arise. And in doing so, he's giving some wisdom here. And I think one verse that jumped out at me, it says in verse 12 of 1 Corinthians chapter 1, "Now this I say, that every one of you saith, I am of Paul, and I am of Apollos, and I am of Cephas, and I of Christ. Is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you, or were ye baptized in the name of Paul? I thank God I baptized none of you, but Crispus and Gaius, lest any should say that I have baptized in mine own name." And I was reading this, and I was thinking of our church, Heartland Baptist Church, and was just loving y'all, honestly. And as I was doing so, I was so thankful, so very thankful for the fact that it's going to be real hard for someone to come to our church and claim that our church is divided. We have a church that loves each other. We have a church that cares for each other. We have a church that just a bunch of regular people coming to get as close to God as we can while we have a chance to. Try to help, encourage. Forbear is one of those words I really love in the Bible, where we take somebody that's hurt, much like the Good Samaritan did, and we put their shoulder up over our neck, and we pick them up, and we carry them over to our beast, or however we can help. We put them up on it. We tend to their needs, and I just wanted to today. I just rejoicing a little bit this morning as I did my devotions, and just so thankful for the people at Heartland Baptist Church. We have some of our people that are sick, that are hurting, that are going through some difficult times. And as they do, I just love the way that our people kind of gather around them, rally around them to try to encourage and uplift and strengthen. And honestly, I would love to see our church grow. And for this reason, honestly, I think there are many, many people in Murfreesboro that need people like are at Heartland Baptist Church, that will love in spite of wrongdoings, in spite of weird ways, in spite of oddities. Will just love as Christ loved, and care for folk and uplift and encourage as we go through this rough and yucky world that we have to go through. I just wanted to say thank you today and encourage you. Sunday's just around the corner. Let me encourage you to come to church on Sunday, and let's be a part of that group that wants to help and reach out and reach into the lives of those round about us at church, realizing we're just a bunch of wicked, vile, sinful reprobates meeting to love Jesus and to learn something from our God. God bless you. So glad you joined us today. Good night.